مشاهدينا أهلا بكم إلى هذا اللقاء الخاص مع الجنرال مارتن ديمبسي رئيس هيئة الأركان المشتركة للقوات المسلحة الأمريكية الذي يزور أبو ظبي حاليا. جنرال ديمبسي، مرحبا بك معنا وشكرا على إتاحة هذه الفرصة لسكاي نيوز عربية لهذا اللقاء. دعني أبدأ معك بداية بأهداف زيارتك إلى هنا. أنت هنا للمشاركة في الحوار العسكري الاستراتيجي المشترك. ما هي أهداف هذا الحوار وكيف يمكن أن يعمل على تعزيز أمن الإمارات ومنطقة الخليج بشكل عام؟
Well, it's good to be back, Mohammed, and to have a chance to chat with you and some of your viewers on many topics, that chief among them, I think. The Joint Military Dialogue is an effort to better integrate our efforts with the United Arab Emirates on several issues: security cooperation, integrated air and missile defense, command and control, so that we can both improve our capabilities, become the sum become better than the parts, if you will, and also so that we can continue to make it clear to other actors in the region that our partnership is intended to produce greater stability. So you ask, how will it produce greater stability? The better we interoperate with each other, the better able we are to share our capabilities, to understand each other, and to exercise. I think the more stable the region will become.
في هذا الإطار كيف تعتزم الولايات المتحدة تلبية الاحتياجات الأمنية لدول المنطقة لتعزيز الأمن هنا؟
Well, I think really the answer to that is it's not about the U.S. helping the GCC or the GCC helping the United States of America. It's about a partnership. And we've had a long historic relationship with the United Arab Emirates and with many members of the GCC. And to the extent that we can refresh our partnership, refresh our understanding of threats, refresh our capabilities, to the extent that we continue to do that and not take each other for granted, I think we'll be a much stronger both bilaterally and cooperatively.
جنرال ديمبسي، هناك انطباع هنا في المنطقة على أن الولايات المتحدة منهكة سياسيا بعد أكثر من عقد من الحروب في العراق وفي أفغانستان، الآن انسحاب من العراق وأفغانستان في الفترة القادمة. هناك انطباع لدى البعض بأن الولايات المتحدة ستجد نفسها مضطرة في نهاية المطاف إلى أيضا خفض وجودها العسكري في هذه المنطقة. ماذا تقول؟
It would be a mistake to come to that conclusion. In fact, it would be a mistake to decide that we are politically exhausted or weary militarily. I hear that myself, but that would be a real mistake to come to that conclusion. Here's why. I mean, I think what you're seeing us do is to take a look at the way, let's take Al-Qaeda as an example. Al-Qaeda, which was kind of a very centralized organization, it based in Afghanistan and Western Pakistan. We put pressure, with the help, by the way, of folks like our United Arab Emirate partners. We put pressure on Al-Qaeda in its home, but it adapted, and in fact we've been very successful at that, but it adapted, as any thinking enemy will often do, and they have migrated elsewhere. They've decentralized. They've taken advantage of unsettled and ungoverned spaces elsewhere in the Middle East and North Africa. And so when you take a look at the way we're approaching that as a long-term problem, I think it'd be better to describe it not as weariness or wariness, but rather as a rebalancing of our efforts to build partners, to enable others, to do certain things ourselves, but that ought to be the last resort, to do things ourselves. We for the most part, ought to address these kind of challenges collaboratively with partners. Yes, we are going through a period of retraction in our budget, but it's a matter of history. We go through this about every 20 years. And the United States still has the military capability to do many more than one thing at a time. And so it's not it'd be a false dichotomy to suggest that we will either be in the Pacific or we'll be in the Atlantic or we'll be in the Middle East. I mean, frankly, we have global responsibilities, we have global partnerships. It's actually one of the greatest strengths of the United States is its alliances, is its partnerships. Unlike some others who aspire to become great powers, but they don't have friends. They don't make friends. They don't make partners. They try to go it alone. And we, on the other hand, tend to see our strength through our partners.
طبعا عند الحديث عن الأمن في منطقة الخليج، إيران لاعب أساسي في هذه المنطقة كما تعلم جنرال ديمبسي. هناك الآن محادثات نووية تجري بين الدول ال5+1 وإيران. هناك مخاوف لدى حلفائكم في هذه المنطقة، منطقة الخليج، من أن هذه المحادثات والتقارب من إيران ربما يكون على حساب أمن هذه المنطقة. ماذا تقول لحلفائكم هنا في هذه المنطقة لطمأنتهم فيما يتعلق بهذا الموضوع؟
I personally think solving Iran's nuclear aspirations diplomatically is a far better outcome than if we have to use military force. Now, that said, we maintain both a credible and capable amount of military force in the region, so that if the diplomatic track fails, it's available to my leaders and to whatever allies we would find seeking common purpose. But we've said very clearly, Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon. Now, if they take the opportunity presented and come to that conclusion diplomatically, I think everyone will be better off. But let me also make mention of the fact that that won't solve the challenges that Iran poses to this region. They exert malign influence in other ways, to include surrogates and proxies. Lebanese Hezbollah, the IRGC Quds Force. They are the region's biggest trafficker of weapons. They're very active in a malign way in cyber. So there's plenty of things that cause me concern about Iran, both regionally and globally, that will not be solved even if the nuclear issue is solved. So I think it's important for the people in the region to understand we do seek a diplomatic solution to Iran's nuclear aspirations. But Iran's got some other things for which they will be held accountable unless they change their behavior.
هل تعتقد أن إيران يمكنها أن تلعب دورا إيجابيا في تعزيز أمن المنطقة، أم أنها تشكل عامل عدم استقرار من وجهة نظرك؟
Well, I don't know that I wouldn't say that we believe it or disbelieve it. I think that's a path that we would like to leave open to Iran, and perhaps the negotiations on the nuclear issue will start them down that path. But we're not naive. I mean, there's a pretty significant distance between where we are today with Iran and where we might like to be. But Iran's got a rich history. It's got culture. It's got education. We certainly would hope that Iran would take advantage of those things, do what's right for their people in the region, and stop its malign activities.
جنرال ديمبسي، بينما نجري هذه المقابلة معك هناك تمارين ومناورات تجرى حاليا في الأردن تحت عنوان عمليات الأسد المتأهب. البعض يربط بين هذه التمارين اللي هي تمارين سنوية وتجرى الآن للسنة الرابعة، ولكن البعض يربط بين هذه المناورات وما يجري في سوريا المجاورة. هل هناك علاقة لهذه التمارين والمناورات بما يجري اليوم ميدانيا في سوريا؟
Well, no, not exactly. Anytime that I sign up my forces for an exercise, we sign up for two principal reasons. One is to demonstrate our partnership with a particular ally or group of allies. So in this case, it's roughly 12,000 or so servicemen and women and an alliance of 20 countries participating. But the second thing is it's actually got to make us better. It's got to make us better individually, and that is to say the forces that I deploy. I want them to come out of the experience better prepared, better trained, and I want it to allow us to come out of the experience better able to operate with partners. To that extent, it should be seen as us continuing to try to improve our capabilities in this region of the world. But it's not aimed at any particular issue in Syria, although we continue to be very alarmed about the path on which Assad is taking his country. But the exercise itself is not aimed at Syria, though the capabilities that we hope to develop will certainly be available for any contingency when they're needed. Well, the chemical weapons are actually, there is a path, a defined path. The Syrian government is generally on that path with a few exceptions. And my charter from my elected officials is to maintain the credible threat of force should they stray from that path. And we're prepared to do that if Assad doesn't continue to remove the chemicals according to the agreement he made.
بعد تمارين العام الماضي، تمارين الأسد المتأهب التي جرت العام الماضي، الولايات المتحدة تركت في الأردن منظومة عتاد تشمل طائرات F-16، صواريخ باتريوت، وحتى بعض الجنود. هل تعتزمون هذا العام ترك أيضا عتاد وربما جنود في الأردن؟ هل تم طلب هذا الشيء من حكومة الأردن؟
Yeah, that's right. Last year we did. Last year the situation was a little different. We don't anticipate leaving anything behind this year, but I always have that option with the consent of the Jordanian government. But at this point, while I'm having this interview with you, there's no plans to leave any of those assets.
No requests from
No, not at this time.
الحرب في سوريا جنرال ديمبسي تدخل عامها أو تجاوزت عامها الثالث. هناك 160 ألف قتيل أو أكثر، هناك ملايين النازحين والمشردين. البعض يقول أن قوات الأسد تحقق تقدم ميداني كبير على حساب المعارضة. هل اليوم نستطيع أن نقول أن الولايات المتحدة وحلفائها خسروا الحرب في سوريا؟
You know, the people that are losing are actually the Syrian people, and it's just a terrible tragedy. But as you know, the path that we're currently following is a path that allows us to do several things. One is we're trying to see the Syrian issue regionally. It's not an issue unique to Syria. I mean, the same influences that are causing Syria and the Syrian people such suffering also exist in Western Iraq and exist in Lebanon. So it's very much a crisis that extends from Beirut to Damascus to Baghdad. And we're trying to work with regional partners, both to strengthen their capabilities on the one hand, and also to build a political and diplomatic consensus to continue to pressure the regime toward the Geneva path that would allow this to be resolved with a political solution. My role is to maintain a certain presence in the region, to make sure that that presence is militarily capable and prepared, and I'm doing that. I haven't been asked to provide any military options to do anything further in Syria, but we are spending a great deal of time and energy training our regional partners, providing humanitarian assistance, and in other ways trying to mitigate the effects of it. But internal to the country, it's just simply a tragedy, and one that's been precipitated by a regime that doesn't care for the majority of its population.
المعارضة السورية تقول جنرال ديمبسي أن حلفاء الأسد